Well, a new trading week starts, and the bulls once again set the tone this Monday afternoon. Investors shrugging off rising energy prices and looking ahead to a robust week of earnings and economic data. The Dow making its way toward a new psychological milestone, just 25 points off of Dow 12,000 as the final and most important hour of the trading day begins right now. Welcome to the Closing Bell. I'm Dylan Radigan here at the New York Stock Exchange.
Hi, everybody. I'm Maria Bartiromo here at Cnbc headquarters and in the markets right now. Stocks once again on a record run on Wall Street. The market's edging up with the Dow approaching that 12,000 milestone. Investors largely optimistic ahead of this week's busy earnings schedule. 106 S&P 500 companies and 12 Dow components will report their third quarter by the end of the week. Thomson Financial is looking for overall third quarter earnings growth of about 14%. Meantime, oil prices a story again, rising more than $1 a barrel today, now just under $60 a barrel on crude oil, on speculation that OPEC will be cutting production at a meeting later this week. Natural gas prices also rising today by the most in 3 months, as forecasters are predicting cooler weather in the Midwest. We'll have more from the NYMEX Live coming up in the program. Former FDA Chief Lester Crawford, meanwhile, was charged today with lying about his ownership of stock in companies regulated by his agency. The Justice Department accusing the former head of the Food and Drug Administration with falsely reporting that he had sold stock in companies when he continued holding on to shares in the firms governed by FDA rules. Dylan, what's happening today?
Yeah, indeed. Amaranth watching the natural gas rise with a big frown on their face today. As for the market breadth itself, advancers outpacing decliners both here at the big board and over at the NASDAQ. Also in the final hour today, America's thirst for power, electricity demand 3 times our output. Coal production heating up, and as Maria pointed out, natural gas, its biggest rise today since July. A little later on in this hour, a closer look at the energy squeeze and the companies that benefit from that. Also, we kick off our special week-long look at the world of private equity. In the first 3 quarters of the year, buyout firms have amassed more than $170 billion, and they are on track to crush the all-time record set back in the year 2000. We will look at where all that money is going a little later on in the hour. But first, we turn to the indices themselves. Dow Jones Industrial Average, good for 1/10 of a point plus, advanced 16 points, 11,977, a hair away from 12,000. NASDAQ right now, which was very strong last week, and we'll see a huge pile of those earnings Maria referred to, Intel, Google, go down the list. All the numbers will cross over the next few days. The index itself good for 0.2%, trades 23.63, and the S&P 500, as usual, splitting the difference again. Over 100 companies, as Maria pointed out, will report this week in that index. 0.2% the advance there. Our team covering the markets this afternoon here at the exchange, up at the NASDAQ, out in Chicago, at the NYMEX and the energy pits, along with a pair of special guests who begin right here with Melissa Lee, our eye on the floor. Melissa.
Well, Dylan, at the start of this session, it certainly didn't seem like it would be a record-setting day for the Dow, and yet with any close on the day, we are going to post a new historic closing high on the Dow, already hitting a new intraday high earlier in the session, and this despite the deluge of earnings that are still to come over the next 2 weeks. 60% of the S&P 500 companies will report. Also, this is in spite of the drift higher in energy prices. We are seeing the Dow move higher, albeit on very light volume. Just over 1 billion shares changing hands in today's session, so that is a lighter than what we normally see at this time of day. Take a look at what's moving on the Dow. IBM certainly one of them. Second best performer on the Dow for the month. Of the past 7 sessions, IBM has been up 6 of them. That one exception, IBM traded unchanged. Alcoa also moving higher on the back of an upgrade over at Prudential, and Walmart is also moving. The Wall Street Journal reporting in just the past half hour or so that it will buy the Chinese hypermarket chain for about $1 billion. So we are seeing Walmart shares edge lower on that news. Where we are seeing some weakness in today's session, certainly the bank stocks really being led lower by Wachovia. Wachovia out with inline EPS, but it was the revenue number that disappointed the street. And we are watching Wachovia very carefully because JP Morgan, Bank of America, and a slew of regional banks still set to report later on this week. We are seeing some weakness in the banking industry today. We're also watching some of the shares of the specialist firms. LaBranche posting third quarter earnings, net income down 14%. The CEO, Michael LaBranche, also saying that he expects further cuts to its trading staff. Since 2001, by the way, headcount at LaBranche and the cash equities business has been down by about 50%. Of course, all of these firms are undergoing tremendous change as the NYSE transitions to automated trading and the eventual full rollout of the hybrid market system. So we are seeing LeBranch shares move sharply lower. Vandermolen, also another publicly traded specialist firm, announcing today that its CFO is resigning, moving lower in sympathy, as well as on news of the CFO resigning from the company. Now let's head down to the NASDAQ market site, check in with Bertha Coombs. Hi, Bertha.
Hi, Melissa. The NASDAQ is about 7 points away from the year's closing high. Take a look. We're come all the way back to where we were in April. But the catalyst that could likely push us there at this point is earnings. We've got Intel on tap tomorrow, and Intel this morning really helped power the NASDAQ higher. Take a look at the intraday. It's come off of its highs of the session. Intel expected to bring in 17 cents on the bottom line, 8.6 billion on the top line tomorrow. But its company's Asian managers saying that it looks like the fourth quarter is shaping up to be a strong one because they look like they're stealing some market share from AMD. Come back out to the wall with me and take a look at the internet companies. That's really the big sector that we're going to be hearing from here at the NASDAQ this week. All of the bellwethers reporting, and all of them under pressure. Yahoo, Oppenheimer thinking that they're going to come in a penny below expectations, only bringing a dime on the bottom line when they report on Wednesday. Google will be reporting on Thursday, but Google coming under pressure because Viacom and CBS are looking at what they're going to do about videos on YouTube. That's part of the downside of that acquisition. Meantime, Amazon and eBay also set to report, also getting some negative outlook there on whether they're going to make their numbers and what their outlook might look like. So the internet sector today, a bit of a drag, but chip stocks are holding things up, Maria, as we look towards a very, very busy week of tech earnings.
Indeed. All right. Thanks so much, Bertha. Meanwhile, fresh commentary today out of the Federal Reserve Chairman Ben Bernanke, as well as St. Louis Fed President William Poole. We get more now on investor reaction in today's bond report. Rick Santelli is live at the Chicago Mercantile Exchange. And Rick, we might want to say lack of reaction, really little fanfare following those comments, right?
You're so right, Maria. You know, my job, as I interpret it, is to let viewers know what the eyes and ears and trading is on the trading floors. And there was very few eyes or ears that paid much attention to anything that went on with a microphone today. We've seen very small ranges in the treasuries, but even though there's small ranges, there's actually some pretty good volume numbers.
That U.S. consumers are spending $385 million less a day on gasoline than they were at the peak when it retailed for $3.03 a gallon. Back to you.
And here now with their views on the third quarter earnings season and how markets will absorb the monthly economic data due out later this week. Tobias Lefkovich, Chief U.S. Equity Strategist at Citigroup, and Ken Tower of CyberTrader. Tobias, we'll begin with you. Signals this week.
Well, all the investment advisory type surveys show a lot of bullish sentiment. So I think the key elements now are how long can you maintain momentum? Let's see if we can get through 12,000. Why haven't the broker indexes, that $XBD, why hasn't that broken to a new high? It's been a huge leader in the market for the last 4 years. These are, I think, the things to keep an eye on right now. All
right, listen, thank you both. 45 minutes left in the first trading day of the week. You're 2 points from a new intraday high on the Dow Jones Industrial Average and just over, 15, 16 points now away from Dow 12,000. NASDAQ also good for a 0.2% advance. Maria.
It was a big quarter for Mattel thanks to this pair, Elmo and Barbie. Bob O'Brien's at Earnings Central with the story.
Yeah, in fact, it's easy to say that Barbie is back and Mattel is benefiting from it. We'll tell you what it's meant for the stock price as well as what it suggests for the upcoming holiday sales season.
Plus, electricity demand has been absolutely soaring. Natural gas prices, as we described, biggest rally today since July. And coal production also surging. We're going to look at which companies could benefit the most from America's energy squeeze.
And then after the bell, stay with us. Rewards where there are risks, investment opportunities in the Middle East, and some top firms focusing their energy in the region. We'll tell you about it.
But first, the most active names right here at the New York Stock Exchange, led by United Health, whose CEO resigned today in the wake of an options backdating scandal. The stock loses a buck. Nortel, Lucent, GE, and EMC round out the top 5 on a Monday afternoon.
You're watching Closing Bell on CNBC. First in business worldwide. The bond.
We turn our attention to Mattel, maybe the best performer in the third quarter of this year. The toy maker out with strong earnings today thanks to a little help from a little fuzzy red guy.
The Dow right now in the record books for sure, with another 22-point gain on the Dow, and the Nasdaq also higher.
Well, Merck shares, Maria, on the rise today. A big dose of good news could be on the horizon for the drug maker, and CNBC's Mike Huckman is working that story. Mike.
Dylan, Merck investors and diabetics awaiting word from the FDA on whether a new drug for what many are calling an epidemic in this country is okay to come to market. I'll have that story next.
And in our Street Smart segment this afternoon, lighting up on Altria, a top-performing fund manager like shares of Philip Morris parent company. We're going to find out why that is coming up.